This is my true story. I was a husband who thought he had everything: a home, a loving wife, and peace after long working days. For 18 years, I took the same pills every night, the ones she said helped me rest. I never questioned it. I never thought the person I trusted most was the reason I couldn't see the truth right in front of me. But one night, I stayed awake. And what I saw in my own house destroyed everything I believed about love. Before I continue, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is. And please subscribe so more people can hear my story. For 18 years, my life followed the same routine. I woke up early, went to work, came home tired, and trusted my wife with everything. She managed the house, paid the bills, and always had dinner ready when I returned. She would smile when I walked in and say I looked exhausted. Then she'd hand me a small white pill with a glass of water. She said it was to help me sleep, to calm my nerves after long days. I believed her. I never questioned why I needed it every night. I thought it was love. The first few months, the pills helped. I slept through the night and woke up rested. I thanked her for taking care of me. She told me she wanted me to stay healthy. That was enough for me. I didn't know that while I rested, another version of my life was happening behind closed doors. I was too blind to see it. I never missed a single night. Even when I traveled, she packed them for me. She said they kept my body strong. If I ever forgot, she reminded me before bed, saying I'd wake up tired if I didn't take one. So I took it. 18 years of blind habit. 18 years of silence and trust. I never thought anything could be wrong. She made everything seem perfect. Every morning, my clothes were ironed. The house smelled clean. The meals were cooked. She smiled like someone who had nothing to hide. I told friends I was lucky to have her. I used to say she was the reason my life stayed balanced. I didn't realize how carefully she kept me asleep, not just in bed, but in life. On weekends, she said I snored too loudly and kept her awake. She told me she preferred to read in the other room after I fell asleep. I never thought twice about it. I thought she just needed space. I didn't know she had a whole other reason to stay up when I couldn't. Looking back, there were signs. Late-night phone calls she said were her sister. Strange perfume smells that didn't belong to her. Clothes folded twice when I remembered wearing them once. But I ignored all of it because trust makes you blind. I loved her too much to suspect her. When you live with someone that long, you stop noticing small things. You believe what you want to believe. I thought loyalty meant never doubting her. I didn't understand that loyalty without awareness becomes weakness. She took advantage of that. She wasn't just giving me medicine. She was giving me permission to disappear from my own life. Every pill I swallowed made it easier for her to live hers freely. She didn't have to hide phone calls or footsteps. She just had to wait until I drifted off. And then the night was hers. I still remember one evening when she sat beside me, smiled, and said she couldn't sleep without me. She said it while handing me that pill. I didn't know how much truth was hidden in those words. She really couldn't sleep without me being unconscious. Because if I stayed awake, her secret life would have ended. 18 years I trusted that woman. 18 years I believed those pills were care. 18 years of nights stolen from me while I slept peacefully beside betrayal. Every night looked the same. I'd come home, eat dinner, take the pill, and fall asleep before the clock struck 10. I never questioned the pattern. She made it sound normal, even caring. She said routine was good for the body and mind. I believed her because I wanted to. It felt safe to have structure. Dinner at 8, pill at 9, lights out by 10. I thought I was lucky to have a wife who cared so much about my rest. I didn't realize the routine was built for her, not me. At first, the pills just made me sleepy. Then they made me heavy. Some nights I'd try to stay awake to watch a late show or talk, but I couldn't. My body would shut down like a switch had been flipped. I'd wake up 8 hours later, groggy and confused. I never remembered falling asleep, only waking up. I thought that's how strong medicine worked. I didn't know it was making me disappear from my own nights. She used to say she stayed in the other room because of my snoring. She said it gave her headaches. So every night after I fell asleep, she'd take a blanket and leave quietly. I thought she went to read or watch TV. Sometimes I'd wake up briefly around 1 a.m. and hear faint noises, footsteps, maybe a door creaking. I convinced myself it was the house settling. I told myself I was imagining things. That became my life for almost 2 decades. I'd go to work, come home tired, take the pill, sleep, wake up, and repeat. I never noticed how often she disappeared in the evenings before bed. She'd say she was folding laundry or locking the back gate. I never checked. I never followed. I trusted her like a fool who thought love erased the need for curiosity. On weekends, I wanted to stay up late with her, watch movies, talk, maybe sit on the porch. But she always said I looked too tired. She'd smile and press the pill into my hand, saying, "Just rest, honey. Tomorrow we'll do something nice." Tomorrow never came. Over the years, I lost pieces of myself to that routine. I stopped reading before bed. I stopped asking questions about her late-night calls. I stopped paying attention. She didn't need to lie big. The small ones worked just fine. She kept me quiet with comfort and medicine, and I was too tired to see the difference. Sometimes, when I woke early, I'd find her already dressed, drinking coffee, and smiling like she'd been awake for hours. She'd say she just couldn't sleep. I'd tell her to rest during the day, but she'd laugh it off. I never thought to ask why she always looked freshly showered at dawn. I thought she was just a morning person. I remember one day when I misplaced the pill bottle. I looked everywhere until she found it for me, tucked behind a shelf in the kitchen. She looked nervous, just for a second, but I didn't notice then. She said she must have moved it while cleaning. I took the pill without thinking twice. I didn't realize that the only thing she was cleaning was her tracks. 18 years is a long time to trust someone. Long enough for habits to replace questions. Long enough for love to blind judgment. My life had become a schedule that belonged to her. I was living by her clock, her rules, her pills. I thought I was being cared for, but I was being managed. Like a piece of furniture she didn't want to move, but needed out of the way. Every night I swallowed peace, not knowing I was swallowing betrayal. She was good at pretending. Every morning she acted like the perfect wife, cheerful voice, clean house, breakfast ready before I left for work. She asked about my day, reminded me to wear my jacket when it was cold, kissed my forehead before I stepped out the door. There was no sign of guilt, no nervous glance, no hesitation. If anything, she seemed proud of how well she managed everything. I thought that was love. But looking back, I see it now. It wasn't love, it was control. She had turned my trust into her weapon. She never raised her voice, never argued, never said anything that would make me suspect her. That was her trick. She didn't need drama to hide her lies. She hid behind calmness. She spoke softly and moved carefully, always 2 steps ahead of me. When I'd come home early, she'd act surprised, like she didn't expect me. But her eyes would flicker for a moment before she smiled. I ignored it every time. I didn't realize how much she managed my life until it was too late. She handled the bills, the appointments, even the groceries. She said it was easier for her to do it all. I thought she was being helpful. Now I know she was making sure I stayed too dependent to question anything. She didn't want me in control of anything, not even my own sleep. Every night followed the same script. She'd make dinner, talk about her day, hand me the pill, kiss me goodnight, and disappear once I was asleep. I used to think she was reading in another room. Sometimes I'd wake up for a few seconds and hear faint noises, drawers closing, footsteps near the kitchen, maybe the back door. But I'd fall asleep again before I could think about it. Those pills weren't just for sleep. They were her way of keeping me out of her world. She made sure I trusted her completely. She said things like, "You work so hard, let me take care of everything." And she did, but not the way I thought. She wasn't taking care of me. She was taking care of herself, keeping me quiet, keeping her secret safe. I remember once waking up around midnight and finding her side of the bed empty. I thought maybe she went to use the bathroom. I waited, half asleep. But she didn't come back for a long time. When she finally did, she smelled different, like men's cologne. I asked if she'd used a new soap, and she smiled, saying she had tried a sample lotion. I believed her. That's how easy it was to fool me. One soft lie, and I'd stop thinking. 18 years she fooled me like that. She didn't cheat once or twice. She built a whole second life inside my home. And the scariest part was how normal it all looked. The house was clean, the meals were hot, and the lies were quiet. She never gave me a reason to fight, never gave me a reason to doubt. She gave me comfort instead. And comfort is the easiest way to keep someone blind. Sometimes, after I found out, I tried to remember all those small things. How she always checked the time before giving me my pill. How she never let me lock the back door. How she'd hum quietly right before leaving the room at night. All of it seemed innocent then. Now, every small detail feels like a warning I ignored. I trusted her completely, and she used that trust like a shield. She didn't need to hide behind lies because I never asked for the truth. That's what made it so easy for her. I handed her my belief and never took it back. For 18 years, I slept peacefully while she lived freely. It was a small comment that changed everything. One evening, as I was getting the mail, my next-door neighbor waved at me and joked about how popular my house seemed at night. I didn't understand what he meant, so I asked. He said, laughing, that he often saw a dark car parked by my back gate after midnight. He said maybe my wife had friends visiting while I was asleep. I laughed too, but it didn't feel funny. Something in my stomach twisted. I told him he must be mistaken, that maybe it was a delivery truck or someone turning around. But inside, I knew something was wrong. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. I sat at the kitchen table longer than usual, pretending to read the newspaper, but my mind was somewhere else. My wife moved around the house as she always did, humming, cleaning, setting things in place. When she handed me the pill, I took it without saying anything, but I didn't swallow it. I let it sit under my tongue until she turned away, then slipped it into my pocket. It felt strange to break a habit that had lasted 18 years. I lay in bed pretending to sleep. My breathing slowed, my eyes stayed closed, and my heart beat fast. Around 10:30, I heard her move. She didn't think I was awake. She checked to see if I was breathing steadily, then quietly got out of bed. I listened as she walked down the hall. Her steps were light, careful, the kind you take when you don't want anyone to hear. Then came the sound I had ignored for years, the faint click of the back door. I waited, listening to the air conditioner hum, to the silence after it. Minutes passed, maybe 10, maybe 20. Then I heard another sound, a car door closing outside. My chest tightened. I got up slowly, every movement quiet, every step heavy with disbelief. I reached the window and saw it, a car I didn't recognize parked just beyond the fence, engine off, lights dimmed. I didn't know what to think. I wanted to believe it was nothing. I wanted to believe the neighbor was wrong. But deep down, something told me this was the truth I had been sleeping through for nearly 2 decades. I sat on the edge of the bed until I heard her footsteps again. She came back around midnight, moving quickly, quietly, like she had done it many times before. When she climbed back into bed, I could smell something faint but sharp. Cologne, not mine. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. I just lay there, staring into the dark, hearing her breathing beside me. Every sound in the room felt louder. The ticking clock, the rustling sheets, the beating of my heart. My mind was screaming, but my body stayed still. I had no proof, only suspicion. But that was enough to kill sleep completely. The next morning, she acted normal. Breakfast on the table, her same smile, the same soft tone. She talked about going to the store later. I watched her hands move, her eyes shift when she talked. I realized how easily she lied, how easily I believed. For the first time, I didn't take the pill that night. I told her I felt fine without it. She looked nervous, but smiled anyway. She said I should still take it, just to be safe. I told her maybe tomorrow. That night, I decided I wouldn't sleep. Not until I saw the truth with my own eyes. That night, I stayed awake for the first time in 18 years. The house was dark and silent. Every shadow felt heavier than usual. I lay still, pretending to breathe slow like I was asleep. Around 10, she came into the room, checked my face, then turned off the lamp. She waited a few seconds and whispered softly to herself before leaving. The floor creaked under her feet, careful and slow. I heard the faint sound of the back door open. That same sound I had ignored for nearly 2 decades. I got up, moving quietly, every muscle tight. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the kind of anger that hides behind disbelief. I reached the hallway and stopped when I saw the glow of the porch light. It flickered once. Then I heard a laugh. Not hers alone, but another voice. A man's voice. Deep, confident, familiar. I stepped closer, just enough to see through the narrow crack between the door and the wall. She was standing in the kitchen wearing a robe, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. The man leaned against the counter like he'd done it 100 times. His jacket hung on the chair, the same one where I used to hang mine. My chest went tight. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. She reached for his hand, and when he pulled her close, I froze. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. 18 years of trust, 18 years of love, 18 years of marriage, all shattered in 1 second. I pushed the door open, and it hit the wall hard. They both turned. The look on her face told me everything I needed to know. Guilt, fear, shock. It was all there. The man stumbled back, grabbed his jacket, and ran out through the back door without saying a word. She stood there, trembling, covering her mouth, trying to think of something to say. But there was nothing left to explain. The house felt different now. The air was heavy, the lights too bright. I looked around and saw the life I had built. The furniture we bought together, the family photos on the wall, the kitchen table where we used to eat breakfast. And it all looked fake. Every corner of that house had been touched by betrayal. She tried to speak, but I didn't listen. My body was numb. I walked past her, sat down at the table, and stared at the bottle of pills sitting there. The label blurred in my vision. My hands clenched until the paper tore. That was the night I stopped being her husband. That was the night I realized I had been a stranger in my own home for nearly 2 decades. She had been living another life right beside me, laughing, loving, and lying while I slept. All those nights I thought she was reading quietly in another room. She was entertaining someone else. Every goodnight kiss was a lie wrapped in habit. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. I just sat there and watched her cry. She kept saying it wasn't what it looked like, but the smell of another man's cologne in my house told me the truth before she ever could. The worst part wasn't the cheating, it was knowing how long it had gone on while I was too asleep to stop it. When I finally stood up, I didn't look at her. I walked straight to our bedroom and shut the door behind me. I didn't sleep. I didn't take the pill. I just sat in the dark, listening to the clock tick until morning came. When the sun came up, I was still sitting in the same spot. My head was heavy, my body stiff, but I couldn't move. The air felt thick, the house too quiet. I could hear her in the kitchen, pacing, crying, trying to clean up what had happened, like wiping the floor would erase the truth. She didn't say a word to me. Neither did I. The silence between us was louder than any fight we could have had. I looked around that room and saw every piece of my life, the photos, the furniture, the things I had worked for, and none of it felt like mine anymore. The home I built with love had turned into a shell filled with lies. Every inch of it was touched by betrayal. I thought about the 18 years I spent trusting her, the 18 years I slept through my own life. I thought about how I had been proud to call her my wife while she was spending her nights with someone else under my roof. The weight of it made me sick. I tried to stand up, but my legs felt weak. I leaned against the table, staring at the bottle of pills still sitting there. For nearly 2 decades, I had swallowed those pills every night without question. Every time I took one, I gave her control over my life. She didn't just betray me with another man. She drugged me to make sure I'd never find out. I felt disgusted, not just with her, but with myself. I had trusted her so blindly that I became part of her lie. The house was silent, except for the sound of her moving around, pretending to clean. I could hear her sniffing, whispering to herself. She knew there was no excuse that could fix this. No amount of crying or begging could undo 18 years of deception. I walked into the living room and saw her sitting on the couch, face in her hands, shaking. For a moment, I almost pitied her. Almost. But then I remembered the man's face, his hands on her, his laugh in my house. That pity vanished. She looked up at me, eyes red, trying to speak. I turned away. I didn't need to hear anything. There was nothing left to explain. The damage was already done. The life we had built was gone. Not because of one mistake, but because of thousands of lies stacked over 18 years. Lies told so calmly that they became my normal. Lies whispered every night while I slept in the next room. I walked into the bedroom and opened the closet. Her clothes hung neatly next to mine. I pulled out a box from the shelf, the one where I kept old photos, cards, and letters she had written me years ago. I opened one and read it. It said she couldn't sleep without me. My hands started shaking. The words that once made me feel loved now made me sick. She didn't mean she couldn't sleep without me. She meant she couldn't cheat unless I was asleep. I tore the letter in half and dropped it on the floor. Every memory I had with her felt fake now. Every smile, every word, every kiss. I couldn't tell what was real anymore. That's what betrayal does. It doesn't just break your heart, it breaks your sense of reality. It makes you doubt everything you ever believed. I sat on the edge of the bed, looking at the doorway where she once stood every night telling me she loved me. I realized love isn't about words or promises. It's about truth. And she hadn't told me the truth in 18 years. That morning, something inside me changed. The man who trusted her died in that chair. The man who woke up that day wasn't the same. He didn't want revenge yet. He just wanted to breathe without choking on lies. The morning light came through the curtains, soft but cruel. It touched everything that used to mean something. The table where we had breakfast, the couch where we watched TV, the kitchen she pretended to clean. I sat there staring at nothing. She stood across the room, quiet, pale, her eyes swollen from crying. I didn't care anymore. My heart had gone cold. When trust dies, love dies with it. There was no way back from what I saw last night. She tried to speak, her voice low, shaking, but I didn't listen. I didn't need her words. They were the same words she'd probably used for years to hide what she was doing. Every excuse was meaningless now. The more she talked, the more I realized how long she had rehearsed her lies. She said things about being lonely, about stress, about how she never meant for it to happen. I stood there staring at her, wondering if she even remembered how to tell the truth. While she talked, I walked around the kitchen. I opened drawers, moved papers, looked at the small things I had ignored before. I found empty pill bottles stacked neatly in the corner. I read the labels. My name. My dosage. Every prescription filled by her. 18 years. She had been in control of every pill I took. She told me they helped me sleep, but now I realized they were just her weapon, her way to keep me quiet, keep me still, keep me blind. It wasn't just cheating. It was manipulation. It was control. She didn't just betray me with another man. She built a system to keep me from ever waking up to the truth. She lived her double life while I was trapped inside the fog she created. The more I thought about it, the more the anger burned. Not the kind that explodes, the kind that stays silent but deep, the kind that changes a person forever. I opened the window to let air in. The cold hit my face, sharp and real. For the first time in years, I felt awake, fully awake. I didn't want to stay in that house any longer. The walls were poisoned with her lies. The photos on the walls felt like strangers looking back at me. I packed a small bag. Just clothes, a few papers, nothing else. She stood there watching me, shaking, saying I couldn't just leave. But she didn't understand. I had already left her the moment I saw what she was doing. My body was still there, but my soul had already walked out the door. I told her nothing. I didn't have to. Silence was enough. When I stepped outside, the sunlight hit my face. It felt strange, like seeing the world for the first time. I walked down the street, hearing cars, people, life, everything I had been too numb to notice for years. I wasn't free yet, but I was finally awake. I didn't know what I would do next, but I knew one thing: she wouldn't win. That night, I slept in a motel. No pills, no lies. The bed was small, the air conditioner rattled, but it was peace. I stared at the ceiling until morning came. My head hurt, my chest ached, but for the first time in 18 years, I slept because I wanted to, not because I was drugged into silence. By morning, I knew what I needed to do. I didn't want revenge out of rage. I wanted justice. I wanted my life back. I wanted her lies to cost her everything she built on my back. The next morning, I woke up in that motel with one clear thought in my head. It was over. The marriage, the lies, the woman I once loved, all of it. There was no saving anything. I had given her 18 years of loyalty, and she had paid me back with betrayal. The only thing left to do was take back what was mine and make sure she never had control over me again. I got dressed and walked straight to my lawyer's office. The same man who handled our property papers years ago looked shocked when I told him what had happened. I didn't need sympathy. I needed action. I handed him the prescriptions, the documents, the proof of manipulation. I wanted everything legally clear, the house, the savings, the assets, all back in my name. She had used my trust to build her comfort. Now I would use the truth to destroy that comfort. We filed for divorce that same day. The papers went out immediately. Every lie she had told became part of the legal record. My lawyer said it would be easy. Her cheating, her use of drugs to control me, her secret meetings. Everything could be proven. It wasn't revenge anymore. It was cleanup. I wanted my life back, and the law was finally on my side. That night, I went back home, not to talk to her, but to gather the last of my things. When I walked in, she was sitting on the couch, eyes red, face swollen from crying. The moment she saw the papers in my hand, she knew it was real. I placed them on the table and said nothing. She opened them, her hands shaking. The color drained from her face. Everything she owned was tied to me. The car, the house, the savings, all of it. She didn't just lose me. She lost the life she built on lies. Over the next few weeks, the court hearings began. She tried to defend herself, saying it was loneliness, saying it wasn't serious, saying I was exaggerating. The judge didn't care. The evidence was clear. Photos, documents, records, all of it showed years of deceit. When the final ruling came, she lost everything. The house went to me. The accounts were frozen. The car was repossessed. Even the man she cheated with disappeared once the truth came out. She stood there in court, alone, surrounded by silence and shame. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I just walked out. The kind of pain she caused doesn't go away with victory. It just becomes quieter. But seeing her finally face the consequences brought me a strange kind of peace. After the divorce, I sold the house. I couldn't live there anymore. Every wall reminded me of her voice. Every room felt poisoned. I took the money and moved far away. A smaller town, a smaller home, just me. I started fresh. The first night in that new place, I sat by the window with a cup of tea. No pills, no lies, just silence. Real silence. Months later, I heard she tried to contact me. Calls, letters, messages. I ignored them all. There was nothing left to say. You can't rebuild something that was never real. She wanted forgiveness, but forgiveness isn't a gift you give to the person who destroyed you. It's something you earn. And she never did. People sometimes ask if I miss her. I don't. I miss who I thought she was. I miss the version of her I loved before I knew the truth. But the woman who betrayed me died the night I saw her in that kitchen. The person left behind was just a stranger wearing her face. Now, when I lie down at night, I sleep because I want to. No pills, no fear, just rest. I learned that peace doesn't come from trusting others. It comes from walking away from the ones who abuse it. The years after the divorce were quiet, and for the first time in a long time, that quiet felt good. No more footsteps at night, no whispers behind closed doors, no fake smiles in the morning. Just me, and the sound of my own breathing. I moved into a small apartment on the edge of town. It wasn't fancy, but it was mine. The furniture was old, the walls were plain, but every inch of it felt honest. There were no secrets in that space, and that made it worth more than any big house filled with lies. At first, the nights were hard. I wasn't used to sleeping without the pills. My body had grown dependent on them, not just for sleep, but for peace. The first few weeks, I barely closed my eyes. I lay awake, hearing every sound, thinking about every year I lost. But over time, the silence became a comfort. I started to hear the world again, the wind outside, the cars in the distance, the birds in the morning. I realized I had been living half asleep for 18 years. Now I was finally awake, even if it hurt sometimes. I picked up small jobs to keep myself busy. The money didn't matter much. What mattered was feeling useful again. I fixed fences, repaired chairs, cleaned yards. People paid me, thanked me, and treated me with respect. That was something I hadn't felt in a long time. Respect. It's strange how you can spend years being treated like nothing and start believing it's normal. But once you get your dignity back, you never want to lose it again. Sometimes people in town asked if I had a family. I just said no. It was easier than explaining the truth. I didn't want pity. I didn't want their looks of shock. I just wanted peace. My past was gone, and I didn't owe anyone an explanation. Months turned into years. I started feeling stronger. I cooked my own meals, took walks, met a few people who became friends. They didn't know what I had been through, and I didn't tell them. Some pains are better left unspoken, but they gave me something my wife never did. Real company. They didn't need anything from me. They just liked being around me. One evening, I saw her name on my phone. I hadn't changed my number. I don't know why. Maybe a part of me wanted to know if she would ever try to reach out. She did, many times. But I never picked up. I watched the calls come in and go unanswered. Then one day, a message appeared. She said she missed me, that she was sorry, that she didn't mean to hurt me. I deleted it. Some things don't deserve a reply. After that, I started writing again. I used to write small notes in my younger days. Thoughts, lessons, memories. I filled notebooks with what I had learned from the whole experience. Things like how love can blind you if you let it, how trust without caution is a trap, how peace costs less than pride. Writing became my therapy. It helped me put everything in order. I learned that life doesn't end after betrayal. It just starts differently. You learn to live for yourself instead of for someone else's comfort. You stop asking why people hurt you and start asking why you stayed. And once you understand that, you become stronger than the people who tried to break you. Years passed, and I heard she moved away too. Someone told me she remarried, but it didn't last. I didn't feel anger or satisfaction, just nothing. She became another person in a story I once lived. That's all. Now, every night, I make tea before bed. I open the window and breathe the air. I don't think about the past anymore. I don't need pills, lies, or fake peace. I fall asleep naturally, tired but free. It's been many years now since that night I found out the truth. The pain has faded, but the memory never leaves completely. Sometimes, when I sit by the window, I think about the man I used to be. Quiet, trusting, blind. I think about all the nights I swallowed those pills and drifted off while she lived a second life just a few rooms away. I think about how much time I lost believing I was loved. But then I remind myself, I woke up, I saw the truth, and I walked away. That's something many people never get to do. When you spend years being controlled, you start to forget what freedom feels like. You live on autopilot, doing the same things, saying the same words, never questioning why you feel empty inside. That was me for 18 years. Every routine was a chain I didn't know I wore. It took betrayal to break it. Now, I understand something simple. Sometimes the worst pain is the only thing strong enough to wake you up. People who know me now see a calm man. They think I've always been that way. They don't see the years I lost or the nights I cried until my chest hurt. They don't know how deep trust can cut when it's used as a weapon. But I don't tell them. I don't need to. My peace doesn't depend on anyone understanding my story. It just depends on me never going back to who I was. I learned that love without honesty is just control in disguise. You can live in the same house, share the same meals, even sleep in the same bed. But if truth isn't there, you're alone. My wife taught me that. She taught me that people can smile at you every day and still betray you every night. She taught me that some lies aren't shouted. They're whispered softly enough to sound like care. But I also learned something else. Strength doesn't always look like fighting. Sometimes it's just walking away quietly and never turning back. I didn't ruin her life. I didn't hurt her. I just stopped being part of the lie. That was enough. Her life fell apart on its own because the truth always catches up. It might take months or years, but it always does. Now, I live simply. I make my own food, take care of my plants, and talk to the neighbors. I don't need much. I don't chase money, or company, or love. I just want quiet mornings and honest nights. I've learned that peace doesn't come from what you have. It comes from what you stop tolerating. I stopped tolerating lies. That's how I found peace. Sometimes people ask if I ever forgave her. I don't know. Maybe I did. Maybe I didn't. Forgiveness isn't about saying it's okay. It's about saying it's over. And for me, it's over. She's not part of my world anymore. She's a lesson, not a memory. Every time I see those sleeping pills in the pharmacy aisle, I remember how small they were and how big of a lie they carried. I never touched another one after that night. I don't need help to sleep anymore. My mind is clear, my heart is light, and my bed finally feels like my own. If anyone hears my story, I want them to remember this. Never ignore your peace for someone else's comfort. Never mistake control for love. And never stay asleep when something inside you keeps whispering that something isn't right. 18 years of sleep taught me one thing. Peace doesn't come from pills or promises. It comes from walking away from people who don't deserve your loyalty. Final thought. She gave me pills to keep me asleep, but she forgot one thing. Even the deepest sleep ends one day. And when I woke up, I made sure she never slept peacefully again.